a few decades now, we've seen a lot of movies based on different sources: novels, stage plays, real events, and even comic books. The word adaptation serves as a translation between one media to another. However, it's not necessarily an exact copy-paste, as long as it keeps the theme and the ideas of the original source. And as of late, video games have been the fastest growing adaptation. Some of them have been adapted as animated shows such as Pac-Man, Arcane, or Devil May Cry, and there are live actions such as Last of Us and Twisted Metal. Today, me and my teammates will be talking about evolution of video game adaptations, specifically in movies, and also address the constant debates that happen online. So a quick history lesson: the first movie ever was Mirai Ninja, or Cyber Ninja, a Japanese science fiction movie released in 1988, directed by Kita Amamiya and co-produced by Namco. It was based on the arcade game of the same name and was created partially as a promotional project for the game. The story follows Ninja Shiranui, whose soul is stolen and fused with a machine, transforming him into a cyborg. He teams up with a band of swordsmen to rescue a captured princess from an evil overlord trying to take over the planet. While the plot was simple, the movie was notable for extensive use of tokusatsu, a Japanese style of filmmaking that relies on heavy special effects. It was also praised for remaining faithful to the arcade game. However, critics did argue that it seemed a low-budget version of Star Wars, and it was less about the story and more about going mainstream with all the effects. Yet it was still an enjoyable experience for a movie that is meant to be a promotion. The movie didn't sit to be international because it was released as direct-to-video rather than theaters, and it was also renamed in multiple countries, so the movie was unfortunately buried, and eventually forgotten.
Yes, but how are we gonna get up, huh? Like Mario's.
This is where the next movie steals the spotlight. Super Mario Bros., directed in 1993 by Annabelle Janka and Rocky Martin, is based on Nintendo's Mario game series, starring Bob Hoskins and John DiComizzo as Mario and Luigi. Because Mario was a cultural icon at the time, the character was big enough to set the movie globally, marking it as the first live-action movie based on a video game, despite their predecessor. The story follows Mario and Luigi as they battle King Koopa, a dictator seeking to merge his parallel world with Earth and rule both dimensions. So the brothers team up with Princess Daisy to stop him, which yet another princess and even villain plot. It featured a style of dystopian cyberpunk aesthetics with dynamic camera movements and a lot of visual effects. Despite the movie being the first major adaptation, it received a lot of backlash as it had little resemblance to the actual Mario game. It didn't get any better with the production team as well. There were a lot of problems with everyone who worked on set, that even the actor of Mario criticized the movie as his biggest disappointment. It was also said that the directors aimed for a larger audience rather than targeting the fans, which could be one of the main issues of the backlash. The movie also suffered a financial loss as it costed $48 million to make, yet it was only able to gross $21 million domestically. And this is how the video game curse started.
Between the years 2000 and 2015, having had enough of racist jokes and rom-coms, Hollywood tried their luck with video games and lost miserably. This was the absolute peak of the video game adaptation curse. But what is the curse? During this time period, major studios aggressively bought up gaming rights but had zero understanding of what made them popular in the first place. They threw out the source material, butchered the lore, and treated fans like an easy way to make cash. The result was a dark age of miss after miss and a whole lot of Rotten Tomatoes. Let's count down the 5 movies that defined this era.
Oh my god.
First and foremost, the ultimate financial disaster, 2001's Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Visually, it was a historic milestone for hyper-realistic full CGI filmmaking, taking a whopping 4 years to animate. In terms of narrative, well, you'd think a movie adaptation of a game would adapt the game, right? No, of course not. The script completely abandoned the magic, swords, and the time period the RPG franchise takes place in, and swaps it for a dull philosophical story about aliens, named Phantoms. The reveal is the aliens named Phantoms were actually Phantoms. Groundbreaking stuff. Yeah, audiences opted out of this one, resulting in a staggering $94 million loss that forced Square Pictures to shut down forever.
It was a nightmare.
Then came 2003, very historically pertinent for a lot of different reasons. But most importantly, it's the year that introduced the world to the king of the creative curse, House of the Dead. Infamous director Uwe Boll took the original tight, claustrophobic arcade light gun horror classic and turned it into an incoherent island rave action flick. Bizarrely, he literally edited low-resolution arcade gameplay clips straight in the middle of live-action fight scenes. It's still widely considered one of the worst edited movies ever made.
It's happening again.
Boll struck again in 2005 with Alone in the Dark. Sitting at a legendary 1.6 rating on IMDb, this film holds the Metacritic's record as the lowest rated video game adaptation of all time. It completely threw away the slow burn Lovecraftian survival horror game, replacing it with a mindless, poorly lit gunfight that turned a landmark horror franchise into an unwatchable movie.
Well, what are you gonna fire me for saying?
Fourth film is 2007's Postal. At this point, you can credit the entirety of the curse to Uwe Boll. He took a controversial PC game known for mindless violence and dialed the edgelord shock humor up to 11. The movie opens up how every great joke starts, a sketch about 9/11, featuring a fictionalized Osama bin Laden and including a scene where Uwe Boll literally plays himself, his only convincing role, getting shot.
I hate video games.
It was so deeply offensive and widely considered unwatchable that it marked the true breaking point of the public's patience with these adaptations. Rounding out the list is 2006 Silent Hill. Visually, director Christoph Gans actually captured the foggy, haunting atmosphere of the town beautifully, but narratively, the script completely fumbled. It weighed down the story with wonky exposition dumps, completely rewrote the core lore, and replaced the game's deep psychological horror with overly flashy jump scares and mainstream CGI gore, proving that Hollywood couldn't replicate the slow burn horror that the game originally had. Of course, we cannot look at this era without two massive honorable mentions that managed to survive the curse financially, even if they stumbled creatively. First, Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Yes, it was plagued by generic Hollywood action scripts and a lot of cheesy dialogues, but come on, we all know why it made so much money. However, it tanked horribly in terms of reviews that Paramount axed the entire trilogy straight out. We have 2004's Resident Evil Apocalypse. While it made plenty of money, this film marked the exact moment the live-action franchise deeply alienated their horror fans. It stripped away the slow burn survival horror atmosphere of Raccoon City to copy the stylized slow-motion action of The Matrix, reducing the iconic game heroes like Jill Valentine to mere sidekicks or a Mary Sue original superhero character. Early 2000s era, regardless of their many failures, proved to the world that making a good video game adaptation was not as easy as it may have appeared.
For many years, the phrase video game movie disappointed fans and gave critics plenty to talk about. Unlike successful book adaptations such as Harry Potter, Hollywood struggled to adapt video games because of their long gameplays that could last between 10 to 40 hours. Studios often either stayed too close to the games and attracted few viewers, or changed too much and upset the fans. However, between 2015 and 2026, this began to change as Hollywood started working more closely with the game creators to produce adaptations that satisfy all parties.
You miss it on the track, you could die.
Starting with a more recent movie, Gran Turismo was released in 2023. It was produced by one of Hollywood's major studios, Columbia Pictures, with PlayStation Productions as a co-producer. The movie follows the story of Jan Mardenborough, a teenager whose love for the simulation racing game GT leads him to a real-life racing opportunity. After winning the academy and getting a contract with Nissan as their driver, he trains to become a professional driver and works to prove that the skills he learned from playing can help him succeed on the racetrack. The movie explores the theme of conflicts between fathers and sons, showing how Jan's father's fear for the future of his son leads him to reject his dream of racing, before eventually choosing to support his son. It also explores the theme of resilience after trauma, where a tragic crash that led to the death of a watcher takes place. The movie shows how Jan must overcome guilt and fear in order for him to return to his dream of racing. The movie received mixed reviews, where the critics gave it a score of 65 on the Rotten Tomatoes website. However, reviews from the audience were mostly positive, scoring 98% 100%, as it was able to entertain viewers with different backgrounds about the game. The movie was very liked due to its thrilling racing scenes that were created by the director using filming angles that were very similar to the video game. Another contributor is the fact that this movie was based on a true story of one of GT players. The real-life Jan insisted on keeping the accident in the movie, hoping to provide people with certainty that they can too face their traumas, self-doubts, and come out stronger than before.
Well, we're having a good old-fashioned sleepover.
Another successful example is the movie Werewolves Within, which was released in 2021. It was produced by IFC Films and is based on a video game of the same name created by Ubisoft. The movie talks about a young man named Finn Wheeler, a newly assigned forest ranger who arrives in the small town. As a snowstorm traps the residents together, tensions rise and strange attacks begin to occur, making everyone suspect that a werewolf might exist between them. Finn uncovers the truth and protects the townspeople while dealing with fear and chaos. The theme mentioned here is division within communities, showing how conflicting interests and paranoia cause the residents of Beaverfield to turn against each other instead of cooperating. In contrast, Finn tried to keep everyone calm, showing the importance of leadership and cooperation in times of fear. Generally, the movie received positive reviews, with critics giving it a score of 86, while it scored 80 in the audience's reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie was successful because it managed to use horror, comedy, and mystery all together, which helped it attract viewers who were unfamiliar with the original game. One of the filmmaking techniques that stood out was its fast-paced editing and scene transitions, which helped build suspense while also giving the movie a playful and energetic tone. This made the story more enjoyable to watch.
So for the upcoming movie adaptations, we have yet another Resident Evil movie by Capcom. And after the failure of past movies, this year's movie will be directed by Zach Krieger. This movie talks about Raccoon City. This is the 5th time Raccoon City has been mentioned in the games or movies in the past 6 years. At some point, they have to leave it in the 90s and stop using the name of Raccoon City. This time, there will be a new protagonist named Brian, played by Elson Abrams. The protagonist is trying to survive the outbreak just like the others. The movie is set to be released on 18th of September 2026. Players are already having problems with it. Some are saying that the movie doesn't have anything to do with the game. The only common thing is the name of the city and the name of the game, while having zombies. So realistically, any type of movie with zombies could be Resident Evil at this point. Especially after the disappointment of the 2021 movie, people don't have high hopes for it. Another Capcom movie coming this year, which is Street Fighter. This movie is by Kito Sakura. The name of the actors are very big, like Jason Momoa, 50 Cent, lots of other WWE stars like Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. The movie is set to be released on 16th of October 2026. The movie will have the same protagonist and antagonist from the game, which is a 2D game. The story revolves around Ryo and Kun, who are rivals on the fight ring, but best friends outside. They go and fight in a tournament against villains led by M. Bison. They try to bring his evil plans down with his syndicate, which is called the Shadow Law. It will be interesting to watch the movie and how they change the 2D aspect of the game. More upcoming movies that are still in production, like BioShock, God of War, Elden Ring, Tomb Raider, which is played by Sophie Turner as Lara Croft. Also Death Stranding. Death Stranding is interesting though because most of the characters in the game are actors, real actors. So will they cast the same actors like Norman Reedus, who is the main character of the game? Overall, movie adaptation of video games has increased from the 80s and 90s, and each year, players are wondering, how will the new adaptations look like? Especially after experiencing many disappointing movies. Lots of reasons, like the producer doesn't have full info on the game. Time is also complicated, as the duration of the movie are short compared to the long gameplays, and modifying the content. The future could look better with the new adaptations, especially with the voice of the players are now being heard. They're optimistic to see better adaptations.